DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The games are almost here. 10:15, the first NCAA Tournament game tips off. So, the obvious question right out of the gate here, BYU, USU fans, what's it going to be? Kevin setting the bar high. I expect them both to win.
I think they both got a legitimate chance. Obviously, I would favor BYU more, but...
When's the last time we had two teams in the second round the same year, same weekend?
That's
been a long time.
I let you worry about that.
I have no idea.
I didn't even enter my mind.
We don't get that. That'd be cool. See them both win.
I don't know that's going to happen, but it's not like I'm petrified for USU and their opponent. They're a mature program. And
you follow the LA schools because you live there and you work there and you know people there. And obviously UCLA's got a brand name program that lots of people follow. I'm curious what you think because I think most of this game is between the ears here for UCLA. Their coach, and I get why he's doing it. I mean, A, it's happening to his team, and B, he's of the stature that he can comment on the state of the game. And he's made a lot about all this travel, and it's so hard. And now they got to make one more trip. Is he just setting these guys up with the wrong mindset?
I think he just likes to whine. He's on edge, and he's decided that he needs to be cantankerous. Maybe I haven't been around him. Maybe that's just who he is. But they've been a team that's been a little all over the place. And it's harder for me to get a read because I'm not watching them near as much as I used to, obviously, for many, many years. Watch them and obviously lived there for a decade and, was intimately familiar with their guys. I don't have that familiarity to the level that I've had in the past, so it's harder for me to make judgments and feel better about informed opinions. It's more the casual opinion this time around since they're out of the league. But, I've seen them play, and at times they look good. And I don't think that maybe it's a little bit of Utah State, because they've had a couple of games recently where they've gotten smoked, and that's caused me to wonder, wow, what's going on there? Or were they not as good? Or were those I'm speaking of Boise and CSU, and both of those games were away, and both of those teams played real good at that particular time. As I said with CSU, I think they have the best player in the league, and he's a pro player in the Clifford kid, and it got away from him. What does that mean? It clouds my judgment a little bit. And, I asked Calhoun about that because if it had happened in January, we wouldn't think it's as big of a deal, but it happened later in the season. So that makes me wonder what's going on, and maybe they're not as good as I thought because I thought they would be decent, and they exceeded it, I will say that. And I had a lot of confidence that, well, this team compares to last year, and last year they got a win. That's all about matchups, I understand. And they went to the second round. They were 8 or 9. I forget which one, but I know they played Purdue, and Baked Edie really gave it to them in that one. But they won the first round, and that's important. That's good to do. So we'll have to see on that. But I would not be surprised if they won. At the same time, I would not be surprised if they lost. And for BYU, I would be surprised if they lost. But I was surprised last year too. And it's not a mild surprise. It would be a solid surprise. Right in the...
Rank your surprises.
Yeah. Well, you do have mild surprise.
Stunning surprise. Now, you're going to save that for a 14 beating a 3. But it'd be a strong surprise.
It would, if they lost, it would be...
Yeah, if USU wins, I would only be mildly surprised.
Okay, I can live with that.
I have big questions about both these teams, and one of them is going to walk off the court with the win. Now, possibly they both play well, and it's the proverbial somebody had to make the last shot deal.
I would like that.
But UCLA's a 5-5 road team, and they won their road games at SC, at Oregon, at Washington. So 2-5 when they're traveling, and then they went back for the Big Ten tournament loss.
Traveling here.
I know exactly. So
And Jake Scott told me, and he's probably listening right now, he told me while I was gone, you made a big deal with the guests on the travel. He brought that up yesterday. He said you put a lot of emphasis on the travel.
Yeah, I think VCU got a bad break having to come out here and play BYU. I think that's an advantage for the Cougars, staying in the time zone. Yeah. And I bring it up with UCLA because Cronin's brought it up, and he's brought it up nonstop.
Yeah, but that was an accumulative effect of travel.
And I just wonder if it's a cumulative effect. A whole season to talk about it, and it hasn't gone well if UCLA is going out there with the wrong mindset. And you seem to dismiss it, which surprises me because you're a big who's got the chip on their shoulder, who's got the wrong mindset.
I don't have a feel for it. I mean, I've seen BYU win in Denver. I've seen them lose in Denver.
Yeah, McNamara went off there for Syracuse.
And I was there
when
back
Jimmer
in
won?
the days when I used to travel a lot more. I've been in that arena and that very distance and saw them win and saw them lose. To me, it's how you play against the team that you're playing at that given day. These guys are young enough. None of them have played in a week. So that shouldn't be that big of an issue as far as that goes. And what are you going to do? Who's going to make shots? Who's going to do the things that require you to do to win? And I think that's very important. And I think Utah State has enough to win this game. And then we'll see about the second round. I mean, I got to see who they're playing. And I know they would play the winner of blah, blah, blah. But, what's going to happen?
Which team is it? Did somebody get hurt in the game leading up to it? There's lots of stuff that can happen.
Right. And that's why for the Cougars, yeah, sure, Wisconsin, but maybe not. What situation? What is that situation? A lot of things can happen in a given game. But I think the Cougars, the thing that gives me the most confidence is even though Saunders has been their best player and he's first team all Big 12er, that they're not 100% dependent on him to have a huge game. I think when it gets down to it in the crunch time type of situation, they need him to assert himself. But who knows if they'll even be in that situation, good or bad. Hopefully, if they're in that situation, it's because they're have a decent lead and they need to protect that lead. But I think they have enough weapons that they can rely more on the team. And as Mitch Harper said, our KSL Sports Insider for BYU, what's Agor going to do? Because sometimes he just is too soft or he makes dumb decisions. And he seems like too nice of a kid. He seems like he's 14 years old. I would like him to have more of an edge.
The older we get, the younger they get.
But, I mean, he just seems so young and wide-eyed. And I would like him to be assertive. If you're going to make errors, make errors from a position of trying too hard, not just being 25 feet from the basket and having the ball taken away from you or he had an inbounds pass here recently that was just awful. Throw the ball hard. Don't throw a little floater. Be aggressive in everything that you do. And go to the bucket more, man. It seems like he has success when he goes to the bucket, particularly with that left hand. Be aggressive. That's what I want to see, his mindset. And he's going to be playing basketball for a long time. And continue to grow in your aggressiveness and your assertiveness. Because you, individually, he's playing to win the game, obviously, but he's playing for NBA notice, because he's going to have an opportunity to play in the NBA. And so put yourself in the best position. And he's not someone who's just going to isolate himself and just, I'm going to get mine, and if we lose, so what? That doesn't seem to be his way at all. But he is, every time he is out there, it's an audition for the NBA. And put yourself in a position where you're having a good audition. Why not?
And how quick is the hook if it doesn't go well? If it goes well, no problem. Let him go out there, maybe take somebody off the dribble, beats him, has a ton of confidence, and then does show that aggressiveness. Or they get into him early and he has a turnover, and then he has a second, and then you better go to the bench before this gets out of hand.
Well, I think they would because they've got a capable guy there in Dallin Hall. But the good thing about it is that Young doesn't really hold grudges at his penis. What I mean by that, he's willing to take somebody out if they screw up, but they're not buried.
Right.
So he'll have opportunities, and he needs to play well. You know, when he plays well, they're a much better team, which is a big old obvious, of course. And Hall is. I've been very impressed with Hall. I've been very impressed with him as an upperclassman, not hearing his name called to jog out there, but hasn't affected his game. And he's hit some big shots, and just his leadership that he's shown. Statistically, he may not have had a better season than he had or has had.
But doesn't it feel like impact-wise he's
to me
impacted
it does.
games?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what he's bringing to the team, which I think is really, really important and deservedly so. It's much needed, and he's been willing to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily take a back seat, but more fit into a team concept and sacrifice for the good of the team. And that's not easy to do, especially a lot of these kids, if not all of them, have had their moment in the sun been extended from the time they've been 8, 9 years old. They've normally been one of the better, or if not that, the best player on the floor most of the time. And then you get into this situation and you've had to sacrifice a little bit. And I've been very impressed with him willing to do that for the sake of winning games.
Got a poll question up. Who wins the NCAA tourney openers today? 43.5% of the people believe it'll be BYU and UCLA. Going with the favorites. Going with the chalk. Cougars favored by 3.5, UCLA by 5.5. 28% think the local sweep. It'll be BYU and USU. And then 13% for VCU and UCLA, 15% for VCU and USU. So looks like about 70% of the people think the Cougars are going to win.
And I think that's legitimate expectation. I'd probably go a little bit higher. I'd probably go about, my level of confidence for these guys is up about 80% for the Cougars.
And see, I think that you're looking at it logically, rationally, trying to assess things. I think there might be some Ute fans in here going, BYU's going down, click.
Or some other fans, BYU fans, who just
Want
feel like
lower expectations, cushion the
you're
blow.
nervous now. Now it is literally play well and advance or not, and the season is over. And the thing about college basketball, when the season is over, it is so abrupt because you ride this high. And the BYU team has had plenty of highs this year. Obviously, we can recite them, the Kansas blowout and the Arizona and Iowa State wins, which were just great wins. And they got Iowa State the second time, and that was a high. You got smoked by Houston, but they've smoked pretty much everybody. They're like Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg. They're just smoking all the time. Yeah. Every time you turn around, they're lighting up. And that's who they are. I picked them to go to the Final Four because I think they have a formula that allows them to succeed no matter what the situations are. We'll see how that plays out. I would like to see a Big 12 team get in the Final Four since we've heard so much about the SEC. And that's why my guy Ken Pomeroy, not the country singer, the other Ken Pomeroy, that
Way to clarify.
He has said, well, maybe they're a little overrated. We shall see. And this, I don't judge by bowl wins on your quality of your conference, and I know they like to put that graphic up. I think that's now outdated because guys sit out.
Yep.
And so that doesn't matter. But I think in basketball, I think it definitely matters, and I also think there's a carryover from year to year. Because you're still dealing with human beings, no matter how many analytics and metrics and numbers they have at their disposal, you're still dealing with human beings, which is why North Carolina's getting in and West Virginia didn't.
I don't think it's ever been more clear than looking at the selection committee and the decisions they made about teams on the bubble. Oklahoma, Texas, and Carolina got in, and Drake and Boise State and UC Irvine didn't. And even when you set the power leagues aside, San Diego State got in. Well, they were just in a Sweet 16, and they were just in the championship game in the last couple of years. And the other schools weren't, and they got in. Yeah. It's like every time it comes down to what's your recent history, what's your long-term power, your brand. It's just And they can have all the metrics they want and all that, but unless they never ever mention the teams and it's just, team and they have some letter code or something for them, I don't see how you can dismiss that. Subconsciously, it has an impact. You're out there splitting hairs between these teams anyway. There isn't that much difference. They've got these different things, and in like 4 categories, your numbers look really good, and then these 3 categories over here, your numbers aren't nearly as good. And you're always juggling and splitting hairs. So that subconscious stuff seems to matter.
Yeah, and I think BYU success this year will help seed next year. Yeah, I've always believed that.
Yep.
And so from that perspective, it's important that they show well. And
validate their season.
Validate next year.
Validate going forward.
I'm talking about next year.
Yeah. I get it. I don't see how you can watch what the selection committee did this year and not think, yeah, we want to have that in our back pocket going forward.
I think for BYU and the NCAAs this year, it's just an appetizer for what potentially is to come. And if
As they ramp this thing up.
Yeah, and if he's already got the freaking #1 recruit. Get out of town. A black kid, non-Mormon LDS kid from Boston area coming out here. This is crazy, man. This should not happen. It doesn't happen. It's never happened, but yet it is. And if you can get this kid, then you literally can get any kid.
That's fact. And I think on top of that, we also heard him say at the podium at the tournament in Denver yesterday, he was talking about, I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically talking about the value of older kids. And so as much as we talk about recruiting, I think, and they did all right for themselves in the transfer portal, but it sounds to me like he's going to double down on that.
Well, I think everybody is, if you can. I think every team would literally remake their roster with 10 new guys if they got 10 guys that they felt were better than the 10 guys that they already have on their team. And so, yes, and why not? Get as much talent as you possibly can. And if you get off to a slow start, so what?
Yeah, you're in a power league where that's much easier to overcome now.
Yeah, and they got off to a slow start. And Kevin Young did an outstanding job this year. He's lived up, in my mind, to expectations. But the expectations this year are here, and the expectations next year are way higher.
He's holding his second hand much higher, people. It's way above his head.
Yeah, obviously. And I believe that he'll get some guys. Because if it's not just high school kids that, I want to go to the NBA. It's freshman kids. It's sophomore kids in college. It's junior kids in college. And a senior kid, I want to go to the NBA. And if he's going to help me get there, yeah. The possibilities are limitless with him and his rep and the money that apparently they have available.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Cole Bagley, Utah Hockey Club insider for The Zone at the top of the hour. We'll give away RSL tickets to see FC Dallas right after the break. Stay with us.